We touched on this a little bit last week, but we cannot take our eye off how there has been this sudden shift nationally of the FBI targeting and raiding Trump officials, Trump allies, and Trump voters. It happened so quickly last week. It happened in Nevada, it happened in Texas, and it also happened in Washington, D.C. It's an orchestrated, coordinated agenda against political opponents. How this is not the most just horrifying story in the country right now is beyond me. I've been waiting for more conservative media to talk about this, and it just hasn't yet hit. But that's not going to stop us. And for all of you in the grassroots, you have to know that there is this orchestrated plan happening right now. To help us unpack this is Russ Vought. He is the president of the Center for Renewing America and former White House OMB director. And he also is very close with Charlie Kirk, who was raided last week by the Department of Justice. Russ, welcome to the Charlie Kirk Show.
Thanks for having me, Charlie. Appreciate it.
So, Russ, walk us through what happened last week with Jeff.
Well, Jeff's house was raided in a pre-dawn manner. The Department of Justice came to him, over a dozen officials, law enforcement officials, including those from Fairfax County Police Department. They were there to raid his house, to search it, to take his electronics. They didn't let him change. They didn't let him get into a pair of jeans. They took him out and made him be in his pajamas for over a number of hours. A complete show of intimidation. And for those of you who are following the news like you do, Charlie, you know that coincided with the fact that he was going to be the focus of the January 6th hearings, the sham hearings going on Capitol Hill. So on a very, in the same week that all of the exposure was designed to show that he was at the forefront of a law enforcement investigation, to show that this is the person that they were trying to demonize as part of these hearings. And of course, this is just follow on from Peter Navarro. It's follow on from Steve Bannon, other GOP officials that were trying to get a handle on election investigation were the brunt of similar targeting last week. I know that the situation with Jeff better than the others, but this is the weaponization, this is the criminalization of politics that we have not seen in this country in quite some time, if ever. And it is scary. It is something that we all need to stand up and have patriots across the country articulate the concerns and not let us go to this dark place.
Well, we're there, right? And so I'm not really sure what to do about this. I have some theories. They need to fear as if the rule of law also applies to all people, but that's a separate issue for a different time. We're not really talking about that right now, but they feel so above it. They don't care. They're going to use the force of the state against their political opponents. So Charlie Kirk was a Department of Justice official. What is the crime that they're alleging he might have participated in?
We don't know, Charlie. I mean, we don't know. We tried to get a sense, or Jeff's lawyers tried to get a sense as part of the warrant, and they have not revealed what the legal claim is there. Obviously, the left believes that he was up to no good in trying to investigate what millions of people across this country, and it was now been documented that there was widespread fraud in the last election. And Jeff was one of the few people at the Department of Justice, I would say probably the only one, that said, we have a problem here. The president wants to investigate it to make sure we know and get our arms wrapped around a problem. And Jeff tried to do that. And as a result, he felt he faced the opposition of the career first lawyers that were surrounding him. And we need public officials that are willing, when they are asked to serve by a president of the United States who wants to go along with his commitments to the American people, we need public officials that are not scared about not getting their next job because they're unwilling to do their current job. Jeff was not, and that's one of the reasons why we are thrilled to have hired him at the Center for Renewing America, is because we want to provide a platform for people like Jeff. And I think, where do we go from here, Charlie? I think that's one of the places that we can do in the next weeks and months, is we've got to make sure that Republicans who are scared to talk about election integrity, Republicans who are scared of their shadow with regard to January 6th and are still living in the fetal position as if somehow the conservative movement did something wrong as a result of that. That's not the case. We've learned that that's not the case, and we don't need this. We don't need to be able to move forward and be able to defend those who were working at the Department of Justice. Was never at January 6th to be able to defend someone like Jeff Clark. We need everyone to stand up and say, you know what? I stand with that guy. I want to work with that guy, and I want to work with him now and in the future. And we don't need Republicans to be quiet. And right now, too many Republicans are quiet.
Yeah, so I suppose longer term, though, people feel as if standing up, what does that even do, right? I mean, they're not going to stop. So what is the kind of game plan here? They're going to try to arrest every single political opponent. They spied on Tucker Carlson. They raided James O'Keefe's apartment. They raided Rudy Giuliani. Bannon is standing trial. They arrested Navarro. They went after Stone. They went after Flynn. They went after Manafort. It's like if you're on the chessboard, they try to go after you. So longer term, like what is the structural plan here besides just kind of voicing outrage?
Yeah, the long-term plan is to structurally change it. We've got to deconstruct the state that is weaponized against the American people. As conservatives are no longer in power right now, now is the time to building those plans, to be assessing exactly how to do this, to be able to seize these control of these agencies and to ensure that they can no longer be weaponized against the American people. So the Department of Justice cannot call parents who show up concerned at school board meetings and say, you know, you're a domestic terrorist. So those are long-term reforms that we can articulate, we can propose, we can build the support for. Right now, though, is when people need to articulate their outrage because they can't arrest all the people that we have on our side. They can't arrest 70 million
right?
people.
Well, they can't arrest 70 million, but they'll arrest 700. They already have, right?
And again, even with the January 6th, if Republicans in Congress themselves would just stand up and not make this, 5-6 Republican conservatives that go to the courthouse, that would not be able to stand. It is able to stand because the right is not unified to get out there and say this is unacceptable. Because the Republicans who serve in government, people like myself, are not out there and saying this is wrong and we're not going to allow this to stand. If the Republican side stands up in mass and says this is unacceptable, it will not go on. In the same sense that yes, they are investigating parents for being domestic terrorists, but they have not gone to the extent to which they have actually put them in court. And that's where we are. There are extreme storm clouds. But if people stand up and say this is not the America that we are living in, nor is it one that we will accept, we have a chance to change this before we have the opportunity to take back these agencies on behalf of the American people.
I think we have to think creatively, though. All they understand is force. All they understand is power. They don't care if we get outraged. They need to realize that there is a cost to their action. I don't know what that is, right? But this kind of, they are going to continue. I mean, we can keep writing letters or op-eds in the Wall Street Journal. They spied on Trump. They didn't care. No one be held accountable. And now Truth Social is being subpoenaed by a New York grand jury. I don't know if you saw that today. Yeah. But where they're at is they're willing to use handcuffs and leg irons, and we use press releases. So, Russ,
I agree on that point, for sure. I agree. It just starts with a new Republican-controlled Congress. We're investigating. They're having to have the same experience of accountability, for sure.
Great. Russ, thank you for speaking out. Not enough people are. That is important, and we stand against this incredibly just treacherous overreach of power of the government. Thank you so much, Russ Vought. Really appreciate it. Center for American Renewal. Thank you.
Thank you. Appreciate it.